afternoon, everybody. Given that I have 18 minutes to talk to you today, I'm going to make this really quick. The topic of my conversation is putting unity back into community. How do we change a nation? For so long, we've seen the plight of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people whitewashed across our television, in the news. We've seen snotty-nosed kids, two people fighting in the streets. We've had this perception of all black people are lazy, all black people are dole-bludgers, and they're a drain on the public purse. Well, actually, you're wrong. The other week, 2 weeks ago, we had a national 2-minute address to the nation, part of GenerationOne. And we had a young lady got up and said, you know, this is Australia, and I know we could do better. She talked about the plight of Indigenous people and that in 20 years' time, in one generation, we could change it. But before I go into that address, I want to give you a bit of background of who I am. Yes, I'm Tania Major. I'm a Kokoberra woman, and I'm from a remote community of Kowanyama. But before that, I have a story. I come from a tribe in a community with 3 tribes who were traditional owners. It was founded in 1905 by the Anglican Church. To this day, and like all other remote communities across Australia, Kowanyama faces high unemployment rate, poverty, low education, etc., etc. At 13 years old, I looked around. I mean, you know, I used to go to church every Sunday with my auntie, and we used to raise money. And I used to raise money for kids in Africa because every time we used to turn on the television, I used to see World Vision and thought to myself, these kids actually need that. Little did I know that actually poverty and the issues of no food and hunger existed in my own backyard here in Australia. So at 13 years old, I decided we need to take action. I grabbed all my grade 8ers and I held a community rally against my council and my people and my leaders at the time because I was sick and tired of them getting up and saying, you are the future. Yet they wouldn't let us make decisions, yet they wouldn't let us take control of our own lives and be active in our own right. So at 13 years old, I grabbed the 13 people in my class and I dragged them by the ear, because as you can see, I'm 6'2", and I was bigger than the average child. So they had no choice but to follow me. Anyway, so I grabbed all these kids, we went to our leaders and we demanded change. Still to this day, there has been slight change in my communities, but not much. So my presentation today will be about putting unity back into community and how do we unify a nation. How do we bring not just, you know, these 13 kids from Kowanyama to come and talk to their leaders, but a nation. The plight of Aboriginal people, Indigenous people in this country, has either been a black problem or a government problem, not an Australian problem. In fact, it's a disgrace. It's a huge disgrace. Because, you know, little does the average Australian know that it's only been 42 years since Indigenous people were given the right to vote or given the right to be counted as an Australian in this country. So to turn around and say, oh, the government give them too much money, or there's too much attention, or this, or this, or this. Oh, sorry, it's my ear. I'll just get rid of that one. So anyway, my background, you've heard about me, you know who I am. So far, so hope for Indigenous Australians and what's working and why. This is just a snippet of, in the last couple of years, people have come together to try and solve this complex issue that our country is facing. And I'm not going to go into details of who they are. Some have already been mentioned, but these are just a few people in our country. Some of you have probably seen some of the stuff that I've been involved in, one of which was 8 weeks travelling around Australia. Travelling around Australia in a big bus. It was nothing Australia's ever seen before. I travelled from Sydney all the way up to Northern Territory, Western Australia, all the way back down to Sydney in 8 weeks to look at on-the-ground community success stories. Success stories, people who are on the ground doing their bit to make Australia a better place. I was in Kununurra, and I was really, really taken back. There was a few trips throughout Australia. I had no idea. I'm from the bush. I'm from Cape York. Yet you go to Karath or you go to Geraldton where somebody who don't know you, yet seen you on television or seen you do this, have a lot more respect for you. I was startled at how much of an impact I have had or continue to have on these young people in these communities. So whilst travelling on this bus for 8 weeks around Australia, I learnt that early on in my career I started in politics, and I thought politics would be the ideal candidate, you know, to change the way our country think, to shift attitudes of our nation. And I thought, wow, what a fantastic opportunity. 21, in there, guns blazing, you know, Saturday nights, dancing on the bar, still back in there Monday morning, you know, and being a young person. And I soon realised that politics isn't for me. Politics is about, quite frankly, schoolyard bullies. You know, trying to dig dirt and find out what the other person's doing, and I just figured, sorry, I can't survive in this environment. Is this really going to change Australia? I bloody love Australia. You know, and I thought, nah, politics is not for me. The way we're going to move this country forward is by investing in people, giving the people the opportunity to actually see and make a decision for themselves on what's going out there and how do we solve this long-standing problem that has been in the forefront of our nation for such a long time. And so on this bus for 8 weeks really reconfirmed my decision to believe in people. Women have been travelling for 3 hours to meet me and hold my hand and for me to meet their daughter. I didn't know what to say. I mean, I seriously just could not believe. I was overwhelmed by the presence of people, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, coming up to me and saying, thank you for opening up a new possibility for our country. And so I figured, you know, here we are talking about this concept of unity and putting it back into community, but yet Indigenous people step into the mainstream society every day. You know, we step into your world, we have to conform to be accepted, rah-da-da-da-da. But at the end of the day, we're still not considered normal. I've got cousins, full-blood cousins, if you may use the caste system, who wants to be a Chinese chef, who yet wants to be a professional martial arts star like Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan, because that's the only real influence we have of Asia, because every Asian friend of mine who comes to Kowanyama must somehow be related to Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan. And I figured, you know, this concept, I've been struggling with it. I got back from New York last week, and to be honest, this whole topic I decided to send through to Rod at 3 a.m. from Miami. And I figured, little do Australia know that this whole concept of unity, if they're not considering us as normal people who have aspirations, who have desires to become a chef in a Chinese restaurant, or a pole dancer, I don't know. You know, and I thought to myself, you know what I'd love? You know what I'd love? I'd love my own TV reality show. I seriously would. No, I don't want it on SBS. I don't want it on ABC. I want it on prime time. Because I want Australians to decide for themselves the issues that we face. You know, little do they know that I hang in gay clubs. Reason why, I'm 6'2" and the men love tall women. I can compare shoe sizes because I'm a size 12. I go into a normal bar, men always come up to me and I'm like, look, why would I compromise fashion to suit your ego? You know, these are the things that I want to normalise. This is the only way we're going to unify this country is we perceived as being normal. You know, there's so much potential out there. I believe in Australia. I mean, since the address, I have statistics that proven, since our address, our national address, we had 2.4 million hits on our site, which was just overrun. We couldn't keep up with it. Yet only 40,000 people within the whole week actually signed up. But within the first couple of hours, 12,000 people, which grew our member base from our 8 weeks travel all around Australia to 80,000 members to this day with a population of 21.5 million. Australia, that's not good enough. In 20 years' time, we could possibly have 7 Indigenous swimmers, 6 doctors, lawyers, AFL players, rugby players, Tania Majors. The timing's right, post-apology. You know, the timing's right for us to change. We've got to get out there. We've got to break down these barriers. And by the way, if there's anybody here who's interested in a reality TV show, I'm your woman. And if you do want to change and have an impact on society, I'm your woman. Because not only will you actually come with me into my gay clubs at night when I party, you'll also come with me in an environment where Australia's never actually seen before. In Cape York, in Kowanyama, in Woodgill, in Pomperau, in Arakun, dancing Waragamelagan with my people, chasing a snake, if possible. You know? And these are the revolving or evolving young, untapped potential we have in this country that so wants to be a part of the wider Australian movement. And, you know, I urge you today to, I mean, you're all tired. I see you fell asleep here a couple of times. You know, I already see you over there, half asleep. And I understand, you've been here all day and I've got 7 minutes. So, and I just thought I'd come up here and impromptu and, you know, just give you me and give you the thought that we've got to do something now. You know, I'm just sick and tired of, my mother never had an education. My mother was born into this country and was not even considered Australian. My mother went to grade 4. You know, my grandmother weren't even given the right to have an education, my grandfather. But both my grandmother and my grandfather made sure that me and my other cousins will all finish grade 12 and all actually get a job. I have a brother who's a carpenter, a mechanic, a sister who's a mother of 7 children, a younger brother who wants to be an electrician, and me, well, that's just Tania, you know. And I just want to urge wider Australia that, you know, give us the opportunity, step into our world. If you want to put unity into community, understand us and make your own decisions. For so long, the responsibility and the plight of Aboriginal affairs has been a government problem. Look at where the government's going. You know, it's an Australian problem. They're not doing much. We have to urge them. We have to get on board. The change is going to take place by individuals like yourselves, not having the conversations. Conversations don't change lives. Decisions do. Get out there, take action, look at ways of, even action in a decision of how you perceive an Indigenous person in this country. You know, and how you perceive. And I fully believe that the only way we're going to actually really change it on a mass scale, and so that 1 child and 2 child in Arakun does not miss out, because it's all about saving a certain few, and only the few with the amount of family with support. But what about the rest? Where are the rest going to go? We've got to step in there. You've got to come in and step into our world and see what it's like to be knocked back in a club because of the colour of your skin to this day. To see what it's like to sit in to walk into a cafe and not be served because of the colour of your skin. It happens to this day. I have cousins who've never been clubbing before because they got told they're too drunk and they refused to go out. But yet they're 18, 19-year-olds who want to go out, meet, flirt, have fun, party. You know, I just fully believe that the potential in this country is just untapped, and that there's huge possibilities of us actually changing our attitude and shifting our attitude. And that's what I've taken the role on for Generation One, is about shifting people's attitudes and also drawing on a success story for Indigenous people, and so wider Australia, to actually see and recognise that there are people out there who are participating, not just in sport, because that's how we're perceived. We're either a sport person or an artist. None of us, all of us don't have ambitions to be sport people or artists. You know, yeah, I just want to share that with you, and I do hope that one day in 20 years' time, or 10 years from now, that my nephews or my nieces won't actually have the burden. I call it a burden, because if I had a choice, to be honest, I'd be living in America right now. I'd be living in New York. If I had a choice so that they don't have the same decisions to make like mine, the burden of carrying a society and carrying a nation that has been, you know, disadvantaged for such a long time and been outcast in their own country. The timing is now, and as I said, conversations don't change lives, decision does. And right now we have a decision to make. And that decision is to either sit down and do nothing and shut up, or stand up and be a part of this new, evolving, emerging, multicultural Australia. Thank you.